Hey everybody, Britt and Chris Carmichael here, bringing you the Elevated Life series where we teach you simple mindset shifts to create radical transformation in your life, because it all begins within and it starts with the mindset. And today's topic is really going to help you see that more clearly and teach you how to tap into that place where you find peace and that place where you can let go of your problems. And today's topic is how to stop 6 ways to stop overthinking, because I know that so many of us struggle with this topic.
Yeah, this is just like we talked about last week, distractions and stuff being such almost like a disease. You know, this is one of the diseases of our current time, is the fact that, you know, we spend so much time overthinking. And what overthinking really does, and why we have to get away from it, is because it pulls us out of an action orientation. And so rather than doing the things that we know we need to do, we think about all the bad crap that could happen. And it's like, you're almost guaranteeing that when you don't take any kind of action. And, you know, rather than being paralyzed by thought and constantly being like, well, you know, I might make a mistake here. This could be bad. You know, we want to get into a space where the decisions that we make are very clear and we're able to just go through them rather than sit and just, you know, think about them.
Yeah, it was really interesting how we had an experience yesterday with someone that said, you know, when things happen, it's like your mind just detaches and you deal with what you don't normally want to deal with, like blood or something like that. And it posed the question like, well, then are you not your mind? And this topic I know is going to be great for people who are overthinkers. And the way that you can identify with that is if you're a perfectionist, or if you're always expecting the worst, or if you second guess everything, if you're kind of paralyzed by making that decision. You're constantly, well, would it be better this way, or things like that. What are some ways that you would identify as being an overthinker?
Yeah, you notice that, like,
or can't sleep at night.
Yeah,
you know?
Insomnia. A lot of people just stay up. You know, they're like, man, I couldn't sleep last night. You always ask them, how come? And they said, well, because I sat and worried the whole night. I just thought about stuff all night long.
Yeah, and overthinkers will take things personally and really fear that criticism of rejection.
Yeah, you know, and every time that we start to do this, every time we overthink, what we really do is we disconnect from reality. Because if you're projecting images, if you're saying, if someone comes in and let's say you have some sort of piece of work, someone comes in and says something about that piece of work that isn't spectacular and says, oh, you know, you could have done better this. And you take that personally, you can automatically think that the rest of the world or this person doesn't like you because they didn't like this one thing. And that's overthinking. We're disconnecting from the reality. The person may love it, but they just say, ooh, hey, what do you think about improving it next time this way? That'd be great to do, you know?
Yeah, you just have to learn to let things go. Overthinkers tend to hold on to the same thought and they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and then they lose the sense of reality of what's actually happening. So before we dive into the 6 ways to stop overthinking, I just want to take a moment to say hello to everyone who's here. Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Miriam. Let me see who else. Say hello if you're here. Where are you from also? Aubrey's here. Oh, Lori's here. Aloha, Abby. So cool to see you all. Let me know who's here. Say hello. Where are you from? And thank you for tuning in to The Elevated Life. So, 6 ways to stop overthinking. This is so essential because we are not our minds, just as we are not our body. So we have to learn to be the master of it. Either your mind is mastering you or you're in control. And we want to teach you how to stop that crazy monkey mind from going nuts.
Yeah, you know, one of the big deals is when overthinking is a habit. And just like any other habit, it can be stopped. And the way that you stop it is you replace it with better habits. And so all we're going to do is give you some different tools and techniques to think about when you find yourself overthinking, right? So the first thing that you really want to do,
I love this one too, is
you want to limit your time. So if you realize that, like, hey, I do this a lot, then you give yourself a time. For me, the rule that we go by is that if it won't matter in 5 years, you don't get to spend more than 5 minutes thinking about it. You know, we get so paralyzed by so many decisions. It's just so many decisions about everything. What to wear, what to eat, how to move, what to say, you know, who to call. It's just too much stuff. And so what you really have to do is make faster decisions. That way you're not on a decision that doesn't matter. So if in 5 years it won't matter that much, you only got 5 minutes to think about it. And you can go hog wild for those 5
Yeah.
minutes. Think about it. Be intense.
Go
Woo!
crazy for 5 minutes. So limit your time. This is one of my favorite tips that actually Chris brought up to me one time, because he asked me, I was, in my emotional whirl, and Chris looked at me and he said, will this matter in 5 years? And I was like, hell no. And he goes, then why are you wasting all of your energy on it? I'm like, easy. And it allowed me to let it go. So limit your time. Allow yourself to be mad, angry, cry, sad, whatever you need to be. Just fully be it in the moment, so that you don't carry it throughout the rest of the day or weeks or months. People sometimes can latch on to these thoughts or maybe outside things that happen that you are blaming, or you feel like a victim. You can hold on to this thought for a long time and constantly be thinking about it. I know that's true when I hear older people tell me the same story of like, well, in the past this happened to me, and they're still living by that same frame and that same...
From years ago, not like this happened to me last week. This happened, hey man, this dude cut me off 30 years ago on the road.
Still
like,
mad.
Hey, look, you got to get over this nonsense.
Yeah,
right?
So let it go. That's one of the ways that we talked about to identify if you're overthinking. You can't let go of one particular thought that isn't a positive thought, that isn't uplifting you, that isn't making you go, wow, I feel great when I think about this. Because our thoughts are actually visualizations or projections of our mind. And typically, when we're visualizing, we're projecting into the future. And you can choose one of two things. You can choose to fail and worry and project what you don't want, which will probably end up happening for you, just to prove that it's not that bad and you can handle it. And then it'll teach you to choose the right way, and you project out what you do want and what you want to create, experience, and feel.
Yeah, and the next way that we have for you guys, number 2, is to write it down. A lot of times, when we start living in our minds, it can be really foggy and we don't really know how we feel. But the second that you start putting pen to paper and just kind of describing, just getting those words out, a lot of times the emotion will release, through the pen or whatever you like to use. You can use a computer, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it clears out all that mental storage, because we try to hold on to this thought, and this person said this, and this happened yesterday, and oh my God, I'm so mad about that thing that I didn't resolve like 2 weeks ago. Write it all down. Get your journal out and just free write. Let it just dump out all your energy, because honestly, your friends love you, but they don't want that kind of crap. Your journal is designed for that kind of energy, for dumping out your thoughts, your feelings. Like, put it onto paper. Use yourself as your own support and your own guide. But you have to take these tips and tricks and actually implement them. Grab a journal, grab a pen, and write down the BS that's going on in your mind, in your life, the feelings. Just get it out of your system, because then when you can look at it on a piece of paper outside of your mind, it takes you out of the equation, and then you can go, oh, well, I'm still mad about my husband not doing the dishes, which I'm never mad about that. But, something silly that you're still holding on to that is nonsense, and you can look at it and recognize, like, hey, I'm being silly. I can let this go.
Yeah, and if you want the super advanced method on this, and this is like the super advanced stuff, the first one is write it from the other person's perspective. So write what you write down from the person that you felt hurt you or whatever you're thinking about. Write it from the other perspective. It's really different when you do that, because it makes you see the other side, just because you write it from that. Just switch characters. The second part that I like to do that works really, really well is that as soon as I'm done, now if you have a journal, you probably don't want to do it this way, but if you write it down on a piece of paper, at the second that you're done writing it, and you've released that emotion, you wrote down how you felt.
Well, you can rip it out of the journal, no
sure,
problem.
Burn it. Just light that sucker on
Burn
fire.
the paper.
And as you watch it, burn, just say, I'm letting this stuff go. Like
set the intention, because
you can't hold on.
your intention of how you want to release your energy is where it goes. And so if you decide to burn this paper, which is a full moon ritual that we do all the time, we'll write down the one thing we're wanting to let go of, and we burn it as significance, as physical significance and ritual that shows we are ready to release this, and so be it. And before we move on to number 3, I wanted to say hello to Jesse, to Erica, to Sarah, to Laura. It's so good to see you all. I love seeing you. It's so awesome here every Friday on the Elevated Life series.
Yeah, and Britt touched on the third point. The third point is to stay in the present moment. And when we're talking about future projecting, it's one thing most of us worry, which is future projecting for failure. You can also do it like she described, where you future project too, but you make the scenario better. You're already visualizing, you may as well change the pictures. But the even more intense way to do this would be just to stay focused right in the present. And you notice that if you're in the present moment, it's very difficult to think. And the way I like to do this is to just notice, look around the room, notice things.
Yeah, this is the fastest way to bring yourself back to the present moment. Either look around, like Chris says, at the physical things in your environment that are present in the moment, or another way that I like to snap myself back into reality is to focus on things that I'm grateful for, because it brings me back into, I have to focus. I'm not thinking about things that are draining my energy. It brings me back to the moment and it lifts my energy. So, you can be grateful, think of something you're appreciative of, or try Chris's method, what is it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's like you notice 5 things in your environment that you can see, and then you maybe 4 things that you can hear, that you can touch, taste, and smell. So you just go down that list and notice those things in your environment, because your senses will bring you right back. When you're really far in your mind, you come back to your body. And when you're deep into your body, you can project that into your mind. So it's like we're using our senses to bring us back to the moment versus projecting out. Because you notice that a lot of times when you project out, you disregard your senses altogether. Your vision defocuses. If you start to go into trance, if you were to imagine something right now, you would defocus on watching us. You'd make mental pictures over us. And so all you're doing right here is starting to let those things go and just look around the room, look around what's going on, and you'll be back in the present moment and stay with what's in the room, and that will let the thinking subside. Again, these are habits that you build on, and just like overthinking is a habit, all these things that we're talking about are habits too. So as soon as you catch yourself, you just switch to one of these, and you can use any of them. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to use all of them. Just one will shift it. We're just giving you some options so you can have some different things to try, because one's going to work really well for you.
Yeah, there's so many different tools in which you can use to retrain your brain, and we're just giving you 6 different ones that you can experiment with, and the one that resonates the most with you, go after that. And before we move on to number 4, I just want to say hello to my mom, and Jessie says she loves seeing us live, and Katie says, I love to exhale and imagine dark smoke coming out, and that being the negative thoughts, and continue exhaling until it isn't dark anymore. No, inhale perfect. Light, exhale dark. What a beautiful technique, Katie. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when we're using our mind to visualize and to set rituals and intentions. Your intention is that the negative energy is dark, and then when it's gone, you've released the negative energy. That's a beautiful way to use your mind in a positive, constructive way that releases the energy, instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, there's a cloud over me. You go, okay, here's the cloud inside. I release it. I release it. I release it. Very, very beautiful.
And it definitely pulls you away from what the situation is. You realize the situation's not you. You're something separate from that. Mm-hmm. And that's a really great technique. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. And thanks for always joining every Friday. I love seeing everyone's face here, and I love hearing from you. So if you have a question or a thought or an aha moment during your time here on The Elevated Life, leave it in the comments, because we want to hear from you. So the 4th tip that we're going to give you on how to stop overthinking is one that I think a lot of people are going to kind of just be like, oh, really? I can forgive myself? And that's let go of the mistakes. Like, it's okay. Accept that we make them. Accept that we're learning. I like to always point out the word mistake, and it sounds like, oh my God, it's so bad, I've failed. But it's a mistake. Just as though they've filmed, they don't film a movie in one take. There's tons of them. And the bloopers are, to me, the best part of the movie, and that's what people would call a mistake. So look at your mistakes in life as the funny, laughing moments where you were learning and growing and falling outside of your comfort zone, because it's those moments that teach you how to do it better or try again. But it's when we're overthinking and we're judging ourselves and criticizing for failing, which is just a wrong way of looking at it, then we paralyze ourselves from actually taking action with the wisdom that we learned from the mistake.
Yeah, one of the quotes I like about this, I want to say is a Michael Jordan quote, and he says, I've missed more shots than most people will ever take. And you start to realize,
I think that's Wayne Gretzky.
Is it? Maybe it is.
I don't know.
It's definitely an athlete. But the important thing is that, we don't realize that, everyone else is always making mistakes too. There's nobody that's just doing everything flawlessly. And you never want to be. The idea for me to do something perfectly sucks, because it means that I'll never have an opportunity to grow, and that means I'll never learn more, and that means I'll stop being interested in whatever it is. the more often I can make mistakes and shift and pivot and say, okay, that happened. How can I change this? I want to keep doing that. I want to keep making mistakes. That way I always feel like I have an opportunity to do better. Like I always want to make all of my work and all the things that I do in my life continuously better. I don't want to just sit and be like, okay, well, you know, I'm perfect at this and I'll never do it again. Like that's silly. Like it's so much better to just say, hey, this is what happened this time. If it's in business, if it's in a love relationship, it doesn't matter. All the stuff is the exact same. It's, hey, this part didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. Let's go back, revisit what we did, shift a little bit, and see what we can do this next time. That way the mistakes aren't on me because I'm always saying, hey, I'm gonna do this better. That's in the fifth tip too, is to not be a perfectionist. And this parlays into that. Not caring about mistakes and being a perfectionist.
Yeah, society teaches us that success is staying in your comfort zone, but spiritual success to me is stepping outside of it and learning and growing. So when you can let go of the idea of being a perfectionist and you can accept those mistakes, then it becomes so much more easier to adopt the mentality that I'm just learning and I'm growing and every step is essential.
Yeah, you know, if you are able to move beyond mistakes and you're able to move beyond the perfectionist attitude, what you find is that every task that you do is so much easier because you don't spend so much energy, time, and effort focusing on what you did wrong and how that's a reflection of who you might be. Oh. And so what you really want to be able to do is say, hey, look, I'm probably not going to nail it this time. And if I do, that's fine. If I don't, that's fine too. And so you go in without an expectation of the result. And it allows you to be in the present moment and connect with people. Again, like if you're a person that makes like live videos like we do and stuff like that.
Mistakes happen.
All the time.
All the time.
Stuff falls over, the lighting gets weird.
The cat goes crazy.
Facebook shuts down. And it's fine. It's not like as soon as it happens, just like, oh, well, hey, that's
Overthinkers then would turn the video off, or once it gets shut off, like dwell on it all day, like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. Like, you can delete it, by the way. Like, so there's so many ways to just stop yourself in the moment. You have to first become conscious and aware that you're doing it. That's the most important part. I mean, all these 6 ways to stop overthinking is great, but if you're not even aware that you're overthinking and that your mind is just rattling and holding on to something that you don't really, that's not positively serving you, then you won't even be able to make the changes because you have to create awareness around the overthinking. You have to begin to notice, hey, I'm thinking too much, or wow, I can't seem to let this go. And accept that you can't seem to let something go. And then do some of these tips and try some of these techniques to stop that overthinking and to relax it out of your mind.
Yeah, and the last way we're going to leave you guys with is to really stop caring and give no effort or attention to whatever your inner critic says. And for a lot of people, this is super hard because they identify with their inner critic. They say, this is me. And the reality is that it's not. And the way that I love to do this is that anytime that you're talking to yourself, give it a different vocal tone. And it sounds silly, but this is crazy powerful. And the best way to do it, let's say you're going to get up and give a speech. I love public speaking because a lot of people are terrified of it. And the reality is it's because they talk to themselves going up there and saying they're going to do sucky and people aren't going to like them. But if you make that voice in your head tired sounding, it stops having any power over you. Or
like Mickey Mouse. I choose to go with the Mickey Mouse voice.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Katie says, say delete out loud. There's studies that show the brain will actually dismiss the thought. Katie, that's exactly in alignment with what I like to do. I say cancel. So a very, very similar situation. If I have a negative thought, a judgment on myself or on anyone else, I immediately say cancel, or you could say delete. And that is recognizing, creating awareness that, oh, I had a negative thought. Oh, I judged myself, or I judged someone else. Then when you say cancel, again, that is your ritual, your signal, your intention that you've recognized that you've done something wrong, and it gives you the opportunity to correct it and take the more righteous path.
Boom, and these are really powerful. And, getting out of this overthinking method is going to make you really a ton more present in your business and in your relationships and just in your everyday life. And when we're overthinking, we're not connected with reality. And so the more often you can come back to the present moment, the more you're actually living. The other stuff is all basically a daydream. And if you spend all of your waking hours daydreaming and you go to sleep at night and you spend all of those hours dreaming, or up at night worrying, daydreaming, you're not living. You're just making up stuff all day long. I mean, and so the shift here is to get out of that constant attitude of worrying and doubt and fears and all those kinds of things that are just made up, and to get back to the roots of things, get back to the breath, back to noticing what's around you and interacting with your environment in a way that really supports your growth.
So I want to hear from you, because I know so many of us struggle with the overthinking situation. What was one of the top 6 tips that we've given you? What was the one that resonated the most with you? I know for me, the 5x5 rule of if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't waste more than 5 minutes on it. What tip or technique are you going to try to stop your overthinking? I'd love to know what resonated with you. Again, the 5x5 rule helps me so much, because if it don't matter in 5 years, it don't matter at all. You know, just saying.
It's true, yeah.
So I love joining you. We love joining you. We are so thankful to be able to talk every Friday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time here on the Elevated Life series, where we deliver these mind-blowing miracle shifts that you can make in your life. We love hearing from you. So if you have any topics or questions you'd like us to cover, again, we are here for you. And all of these topics come from you. They're things that you reach out and you personally message us about or leave in the comments. So we love hearing from you. So let us know, what topics do you want us to cover? Because we know that making these transformations in your life isn't for the faint of heart. It takes courage and to step outside of your comfort zone and grow. But ultimately, that's what brings us the most joy. And as I've said in the past, joy is the new currency. So how can you activate yours today?
Yeah, and happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. You know, do something cool. Don't worry so much. Like, go spend some time, hug somebody.
Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah, right?
Go out and have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you next Friday on the Elevated Life series. Bye.
Bye, guys.